Hi there. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Joe Parente, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions. But there's one E, Ryan, that's often overlooked.
Where is it? Where's the E at?
I know you'll get it.
Oh, I think it's educational.
Well done.
If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can help us to learn and develop as human beings. I'm your co-host, Ryan Vanderhei, and it's our mission with this podcast to help share these unique perspectives with you so that you can grow from the show.
Right on. Today's topic, Ryan, we're going to discuss the 1997 film American History X starring Edward Norton, Edward Furlong, Beverly D'Angelo, and Avery Brooks.
The Edwards.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. This was written by David McKenna and directed by Tony Kaye. As always, there will be copious spoilers ahead, so consider yourselves hereby officially warned. If you haven't seen it and still listen, hopefully what we say will make you want to see the movie that much more. Be sure to leave us a like, a rating, or review wherever it is that you listen or watch, as it really helps us grow the show. And before we jump in, I just want to give a quick disclaimer, Ryan, that some of the terms that we're going to be using in our discussion today are completely within the context of the movie and terms that they use in the movie, such as skinheads and Nazi, neo-Nazi.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones we're actually not going to say.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going to repeat a lot of things that Edward Norton's character says in this movie.
Right.
But I just wanted to give that disclaimer. So
That's great.
with that given, shall we begin?
Let's do it.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
Well, Ryan, in our last few episodes, we have covered some fairly hard-hitting, emotionally evocative films. And I'm all in on that, as I know you are too.
Yes.
But I just want to let you know that I may want to cover Zoolander for my next episode, just for something slightly less weighty.
Yeah.
Still socially significant, of course, for sure. But no lives were ever in jeopardy, either in the story or behind the camera. So just
Right. We
saying.
hope so. Yeah. It went
Exactly,
smoothly. Yeah.
exactly. At least that's what I've heard.
Sure.
So regarding American History X, this film throws haymakers.
Boy, does it ever.
You know?
Uppercuts,
So many.
sucker
so
punches.
all punches you can think of. But more importantly, and sadly, its subject matter is still quite relevant even 27 years later.
Yeah, I felt
bet
that too.
went through. Yep,
100%.
I knew it.
Unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is quite unfortunate. I found it difficult to watch at times, but I also couldn't take my eyes off the screen
Yeah.
because it was shot in such a compelling way.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job.
They really did, with a very difficult subject matter.
Sure.
But as those of you listening or watching us know, we don't do a typical movie review. We look at films or shows, to see what we can learn about ourselves and about each other. And we discuss what moves us. This movie may use a blunt instrument to make its point at times, and it can be heavy-handed, and that doesn't make it any less effective or informative to me.
Agreed. I'm with you.
And to you as well. Is this movie flawed? For sure. There's no doubt. And, any movie is. And this movie has its flaws, and we're not going to get into that. But that's a road we're not going to go down in this podcast, but it is also, it's a hard ride.
Oh, is it ever?
It's a gut punch, and it truly moved me. It stayed with me. Put it that way. That there are some episodes, some movies that we've covered, here on this show, Ryan, and 3 days later, I'm like, wait, what was that?
Yeah.
Not many. I think we have a streak of covering some really fantastic films.
Yeah.
A lot of them. But something like this just is so effective at its messaging.
Agreed. And you, when we were talking about this selection, you had said to me, because I hadn't seen it before, and so you had said to me, just to let you know, like, it's a difficult watch. And I wasn't sure what you meant by that. That could mean a lot of different things.
Sure.
So once I started watching the movie, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get it now, because everything from the language, from the violence to the characters and just the scenes, it's just, it is difficult. That's the only way to describe it. It's a difficult subject matter. It's a difficult thing to watch happen and unravel. And so there were times where I just felt like I was just
Yeah.
almost wanting to look away as if
Yeah.
it was like a horror flick.
Totally understandable. And again, that says just how effective these performances were. And it's just, look, it's hard to listen to that kind of language. We don't hear that in our day-to-day life at all.
Right. Thankfully.
And I won't go into all the slurs that were used, but just be prepared. Everyone you can think of is used.
Oh yeah. Casually.
And it's casually and also with venom.
Oh yeah.
To a person's face many times.
Yeah.
And again, the relevance today it hurts.
Yes.
It hurts.
Agreed.
So, Ryan, the debate's been going on for years. What has the greater impact on us and during the formation of, for us as children? Is it nature or nurture? There are countless stories of twins, separated at birth, and they reconnect well into adulthood. And what they discovered is that these siblings, even if raised in very different households in different parts of the country, had a ton in common.
Sure.
When it came to their clothing styles, their musical tastes, even their chosen professions. On the other hand, those of us with siblings can attest, I certainly can, to being raised in the same household. And that doesn't mean that we're terribly similar in many ways.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I see evidence
I can speak from experience there.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. And I did look it up. And now scientists, whoever, are saying they're equal, nature and nurture.
Okay.
Because, that it wasn't
equal parts
exactly
responsible for developing us as children. Okay.
Exactly.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. So parents, siblings, friends, teachers can all still have a huge effect on us.
Oh my God.
Throughout our lives. And this is true, like I say, even into adulthood, but it's especially pronounced during childhood. So
you're so impressionable as a kid.
Massively. And obviously I'm bringing this up for a point because I think it's pretty germane to the movie.
Absolutely.
But first, my question for you, Ryan.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you should be. Uh-oh. Can you think of a trait or something you love doing that you picked up from one or both of your parents? Or, is there someone in your life that you looked up to that helped shape your view of things?
That's a great question. I pose that question to the audience too, anybody who's listening or watching.
Oh, yeah.
For me, there's so many people, but if I choose one, I think my dad was particularly impressionable on me. Maybe that's because I was a man. I don't know. Like he was more impactful in terms of not even sitting me down and telling me something, hey, this is how the life is, or this is what you should do. More so in the way that he carried himself, the way that he worked, the way that he was around the house. Like I looked up to him in a lot of ways because he's the male figure in my life. And so I was always amazed at how productive my father always was and how he would work a full-time job and then he would work a weekend job. And then at the same time, he was building a deck on the back of the house without any help. And then it was just like, my brain couldn't really wrap my head around this person that was able to do so many different things so effectively. And so that imprinted onto me very deeply because as I became an adult and I into the workforce and even college and stuff like that, and even still today, I feel this like nagging need to be productive at all times. Otherwise, I am like in shambles. Like if I'm not productive, at least every single day of my life, I feel like something's wrong, and that's literally just from observing the behavior of my father. And again, he didn't sit me down and say, you need to work. And it was none of that.
Yeah.
It was just me literally for 18 years, just observing this man being highly productive.
Well, and by and large, that is how we learn, through osmosis, through just observing.
Yeah, that's all it took.
And he didn't have to sit you down. You were just watching Dad doing what he was doing, which was quite a bit.
Yeah, which was a lot.
A remarkable amount.
It massively impacted me and still does to this day. So it's not to be diminished what effect just your behavior alone can have, as we see in this film. Point.
That's a really good point.
What about you? Is there anybody in your life that has had the same effect?
So many. Just a few. My brothers, Bill and Bern, taught me to love music. I'm just a few years older than you, so I do remember the Beatles albums coming out. Not all of them, but my brothers coming home with albums and putting them right on. It's like, and listening to them and cranking it up. It's like, wow, that left such a huge imprint on me.
Sure.
My dad taught me to love sports. He was a college athlete, and he got a scholarship, didn't take it because he wanted to be a student. He wanted to focus on, he got a basketball scholarship.
Wow.
To like one of the top basketball schools in the country. And he went there, but he didn't play because he wanted to be a student.
Wow, that's crazy.
Anyway, whatever.
I kind of respect that move.
Okay. Okay. I think he should have played ball, but that's just me.
Sure.
But he just loved sports, and it really rubbed off on me.
Sure.
And then I've told you before that I had a mentor that had a huge impact on my life. And one of the ways that he had a huge impact, I already loved movies, but he saw movies the way that you and I do, and how we're discussing this in this podcast. That's how he would look at these. Mm-hmm. And so it helped me take movies beyond the realm of entertainment.
Sure. Yeah.
Such as we do right here.
Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All things we gained from the people around us.
Yeah. Very, very true. So yeah, a lot of God, even one of my poli-sci professors, just how he looked at things. I think I might have told you he had us write, maybe not, but he had us write all our assignments on 5x7 cards.
Yes, I remember you telling me this. Yeah.
And it would be the who, the what, the why. And he didn't want flowery prose. He wanted us to be concise. And I love that. And that just had a huge impact on me.
Yeah,
and
he said, if you say it right here,
then you don't
know
get
what you're
it.
Talking about.
That's right. And I love that. So I'm appreciative to Dr. Cruikshanks out there. So the reason I bring this up is because this movie shows us something that probably you or most already know, and that is that hatred is taught.
Yes.
And I bring that up because that is quite a theme of this movie. You don't see newborns brimming with hatred. Most little kids are not naturally neo-Nazis, although I'm sure there are exceptions.
Sure.
But this movie shows us a lot of hatred, a lot of anger, and it doesn't shy away from them at all. But more importantly to me, it attempts within 117-minute runtime to show us how impressionable we are to those who love, those we admire, and that they can affect us tremendously, even if we're not aware of it at the time.
Yeah, 100% agreed. This relationship between these two characters, the brothers in this film, was just so profound. And
wasn't it?
The impact that one was having on the other was just so incredibly moving. Mm-hmm. And the way in which those characters took that into their... you're going to get into it.
Yes,
but
I definitely will.
It was a very good movie, and it was written very well and performed very well, and it just left you feeling for these, at one point in time, neo-Nazis.
Feeling for them in what sense? I mean, should we save that, or
we could save that? Yeah,
okay.
We'll get to that
because we definitely will. We will definitely get to that.
Yeah,
I've at least 3 scenes I want to discuss.
100%.
So, but first, allow me to give a brief synopsis of the movie, just for those of you who've seen it, just bring you up to speed, or those of you who haven't.
Refresh the mind.
I definitely will, right here. So, Derek, played by Edward Norton, is an up-and-coming neo-Nazi. He's clearly bright and articulate and off the charts violent, I must say.
Mm-hmm.
Derek has issues. That's pretty clear. One night, while his mother, sisters, and young brother are sleeping or trying to, his brother Danny, played by Edward Furlong, interrupts Derek's none too quiet or subtle coital activities to inform him that someone is trying to steal his truck that's parked right there in the driveway. As one does, Derek grabs his rather hefty handgun and heads down to take care of business. And boy, does he. With one of the most violent acts imaginable. I'd never seen anything like what he did to the third guy.
When it comes back around, because in the beginning we don't see that.
Nope.
When he comes back around, and that's one of the most disturbing, violent scenes I've ever seen in film.
Yep. And I'm glad that they cut right before the thing actually happens, because you don't need to see it. Your imagination fills in all the blanks. And if you don't cringe or have some kind of reaction, I think you might have taken a fall at some time because
what do people say? You got dropped on your head.
Exactly. I think that might be the case for you. And I'm sorry if it was the case for you.
Right.
It's really difficult to watch.
Agreed.
So for doing this, for killing the guys who attempted to steal his truck, Derek gets a short 3-year stint.
Yeah, which was
3
also
years.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty precarious.
A year per guy he killed.
Right.
So
Right.
So this movie follows Danny, who's the younger brother, who worships Derek, as Ryan was just alluding to. And since Derek's been serving time, Danny has been getting more and more involved with the same skinhead gang that Derek belongs to. He's shaved his head to prove it. And we see Danny in the principal's office pretty early on in the movie because he wrote a paper for his history class on Mein Kampf, which, as you might imagine, is concerning.
Right, which is claiming that what Hitler did was good.
Justified.
Yeah.
Yes. So the principal, played by Avery Brooks, clearly cares about Danny and knows Derek, a quote-unquote brilliant student from his teaching days, says that he will now report to the principal directly every day, and their one-on-one class will be called American History X.
The title of the film.
The title of the film. I don't know if he knew that at the time. So Danny's first assignment is to write about Derek. And the paper's due the next day. He asked Danny to analyze and interpret all the events surrounding Derek's incarceration and how those events help shape Danny's current perspective, which is just an awesome assignment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, really something.
Heck of a teacher.
Yep. He asked him to write about the impact on his life and his family's lives. And to Danny's credit, he rises to the challenge impressively well. He becomes the narrator then of the movie from that point forward, looking at pivotal events to uncover some reasons why Derek may have ended up the way he is and where he is. But before we jump into discussing the scenes, let's have a bad guy break.
Let's do it. Let's break it up here.
All right. So
this should be an interesting bad guy.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what theme or what.
Well, yeah,
I'm ready.
So I just thought I'd take kind of the theme of American History X and turn it on its head. Well, anyway, let's just jump into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, the year's 2017.
Oh, okay, pretty recent.
The medium is film. The genre is dark comedy / psychological thriller with massive racist undertones.
Interesting.
It stars Daniel Kaluuya.
Oh.
Although he's not the bad guy.
Right.
Pretty much every white actor in it is.
That's fair. Yeah, this is Get Out.
It is Get Out.
Yeah, what a great movie.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah.
What a phenomenal
I had a
film.
feeling you were going to get that one, and
That's
you did.
That's a good, in relation to this, that's a good bad guy break.
Yeah, you can understand,
Sure.
the relation with that. So,
love it.
Yeah, and was that Jordan Peele's first?
Your first feature, yes.
Yeah, first feature.
Yeah.
That was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Very. Oscar winner.
Yeah, yeah.
Won the screenplay.
Yeah, exactly. So should we just jump into some scenes?
Let's see what you picked here. I'm very curious to see what scenes because there's so many good scenes in this and so many very moving and meaningful scenes. So
I completely agree. It was hard
curious.
for me to narrow it down.
Yeah, I bet.
So the way I decided to pick these scenes is I really wanted to get at what were pivotal scenes where you got to see who Derek is and potentially the formation of Derek as well.
Okay.
Like one scene I didn't talk about was when Stacy Keach's character, who's like the grand wizard, if you will, of these skinheads, the skinheads group, a much older man, has Derek rally the troops before they ransack a market.
Yeah.
And I thought about that, but I thought Derek already is who he is, and he's just he's showing that he has leadership capabilities. He's showing that he's extremely verbal. He's showing that he knows his stuff.
Right. It's not showing us how he got there.
Exactly. And so I thought going like it more of a genealogy kind of thing and understanding his history, just like Danny is doing, would be potentially more interesting to discuss. So that's why I
love it.
The scenes I did. So
Sure.
the first one, the dinner scene.
Woo-wee.
I just have to take a deep breath even saying that.
All right. Going
Just-
right in. We're diving right into the deep.
We are. So I just want to know what you think, but I'm gonna say a little stuff first, and then we can jump in.
Let's
so
do it.
so oh my is the first thing I say to that dinner scene. So Derek and Danny's families having dinner together. How lovely, you might think. How wrong you'd be if you thought that.
Just wait.
Yeah, just wait, because it looks great, and even the voiceover. If I'm remembering correctly, and I think I am, and Danny's saying, everything was going really good. Derek had a job, like things were going really well.
Until shit hit the fan.
Yeah, and no one could have seen this coming, or could we have,
Sure. Yeah.
So here they are having dinner. Also at the table, besides the immediate family, is Derek's demonic partner, Stacy, played with gleeful conviction by Firuza Balk, as well as mom's date, Murray, the history teacher, played by Elliot Gould. This scene is an event that Danny's recalling while, he does. I do talk with the voiceover here.
You got ahead of yourself.
I did get ahead of myself. So this is, he's trying to write his paper for American History X. And so he's sitting at his desk thinking about things, and he comes up with this in his head, and his voiceover, he says, everyone's just feeling so good. We didn't see it coming. Maybe we should have. So I'm not going to go into the gory details because we really don't need to. But
Let's spare the listeners.
Yes, please.
You know what we're talking about.
Woo! But I will say that Derek is quite forceful in his perspectives. He gets pushback, sure, but he's quick to deflect it. And it's clear he's articulate and has thought out his particular view of the world. And by particular, I mean racist, xenophobic, and generally hateful of any group that isn't his little band of Nazi skinheads.
Correct.
So what I found chilling was how this could be a dinner scene from last night at some home anywhere in the United States.
Sure.
Granted, some of the language might not be the same, but the points were still germane. The topics: police brutality, riots in response to injustices, different perspectives on these riots, and flagrant racism.
Yeah, absolutely.
The point of prejudice in the judicial system is brought up and dismissed by Derek. He'll change his tune. He definitely will change his tune later, but at this point, he just completely dismisses judicial prejudice wholesale.
Yeah, that's
it just
ridiculous.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Says this white guy who's never been incarcerated.
Right.
But I'm getting ahead of myself again.
Who then gets 3 years for murdering
Yeah,
three people?
yeah, exactly.
Right.
So in this scene, the gloves come off. It would be hard to come back from such a family discussion. And Murray, mom's date, does not come back from this. And he's insulted quite directly with a Jewish slur that would be more than enough to get anyone looking at their car keys.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. I'm out.
Right. And he hung in there for quite some time, and he tried, and he was looking around the table to see like who's on board with this. And I think he was also really looking at Danny,
Sure.
the younger brother, to see where is he with this. So mom goes out to talk to Murray, and Murray says goodbye to her and puts his hand out like, good luck,
Yeah,
to shake her hand. And she,
Not part of this.
nope. And she comes back into the house, and she gets right in Derek's face, and she says, what did I do to you? She's really wondering, how did he become this way? And she seemed to really genuinely wonder. But that runs into the next scene that I'm going to bring up. But
Well,
but
I'm
let's
surprised you
discuss
didn't,
this one first.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't choose the other line from that scene. Am I correct in thinking that in that same scene she says the worst thing that ever happened to me was giving birth to you?
She did say
Something
that.
along those lines. I'm paraphrasing.
Yes, but
But the ending of the scene is her like screaming at him, like basically,
yeah,
you know,
and she wants him out, and yeah,
right? He's like, "No worries, I'll be out of here by tomorrow."
yeah.
Yeah, that's how it ends. But
She
yeah,
was
man.
She was disgusted by him.
I can put myself in the shoes of this woman who seemingly is confused at how it got this far, maybe, or how she let this happen. Like she's beating herself up in terms of like, you're my son, you're a representation of me. How are you? I don't recognize you. How did you become this person?
Which,
and we'll find out.
Yes, we
why.
will. We will, and that's where it's kind of impossible for us to discuss this scene without discussing the next one, which we will. Again, it hit me so hard that these topics are still coming up today.
Yeah.
And
like you said, comparing it to, it could be any house in America.
Absolutely.
Still having these conversations.
It was Rodney King in the movie, but it could be George Floyd. It could be, it's these things are still happening.
Yeah.
And I guess that is, I will say, one of the most depressing parts about this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's sort of one of the things about this movie that hits you so hard.
It really does.
Because it's still relevant.
It's still relevant. And I think that, one of the primary points of this movie to me is also still relevant, and I'm eager for us to get to this and discuss it. So let's just jump into scene number 2. Okay. Now we're getting to the heart of the matter.
I like that you say pep talk. That's a good.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to put it.
So
in some ways or another.
Yeah, exactly. So now this is the scene we're talking about. We're going to be talking about this a little bit out of order. But this scene comes later in the movie. And it's the scene where you go, oh, okay. This is how it happened.
This is how Derek became.
How Derek became the skinhead neo-Nazi he became.
Yep.
So now we're at the table again, and we're having breakfast. The whole fam. Sunny morning. Dad's still alive at this point. Dad is a firefighter. Dad was killed. He was shot while he was fighting a fire.
Yeah.
In South Central, I believe, and he was shot and killed while he was on duty. And that was something that was an event also that really got Derek fired up and really confirmed.
Yeah, that was kind of the tipping point for him.
That was the tipping point, and that's what really flipped him into becoming what we see in this movie. So in this particular scene, I did call it Dad's morning pep talk about what he called affirmative blaction.
Right.
So this scene is also from Danny digging into the past to see why Derek became the way he was. And in this scene, Danny hit pay dirt.
Yeah.
And now we get to see how Derek became who he was. Derek was talking about, I believe, had a history test that day. He had a basketball game, too, that afternoon.
Yep.
And they were talking about the ball game. And he was saying that first he wanted to get this paper done because the paper was for Dr. Sweeney. And he really likes this guy. And he was starting to tell the dad, this guy's really great. He's really smart. He's really provocative and really making me think.
Uh-huh.
And Dad's digging in like, wait a minute. So he's got you reading what? He's doing what?
Yeah. And then he tells him about the book. It's about this, African-American man who blah, blah, blah. And that's all the dad needed to hear.
Yep.
It was lights out from that point forward.
It sure was.
All he heard was African-American.
That's right. That's right. And son, don't let this guy get in your head. Don't let him fill you with these kinds of thoughts. And then Dad's casually dropping the N-word.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At dinner.
There is
at
breakfast. I mean, bad enough at dinner, worse at breakfast.
Yeah, we're just getting started here.
And where was Mom then?
Yeah.
Where was everybody then?
Yeah.
Because, there she was in the previous scene that I just talked about. Like, what did I do to you? Where did this come from? Well, come on. It was right there all along.
Writing's on the wall.
Dad was a 5-star racist.
Yeah. And
it
he
was really clear.
and he wanted to make sure that the kids
That's right.
carried that on.
That's right.
It wasn't just about blurting
That's
it
right.
out. It was like, you're not gonna.
That's right.
Don't let him get into your head.
Yeah.
Don't these books that they just put in here
Yep.
just because.
Yep.
There's plenty more better books out there.
That's right. And you could see Derek admired his dad so much and clearly wanted to impress his dad, what have you, that he's like going, okay, Dad, yeah, okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. And you can see him, he's buying it.
Yeah.
He's buying it. Okay.
He's an impressionable kid. Of course, his father's telling him this is how you should think.
Right. And then
His
to
father, he
have,
respects him.
right. And then to have his father murdered the way he was murdered, Derek's thinking,
see how
Dad
it
was
would
right.
kick off,
Yeah.
this
That's right.
steamroll of downward spiral that
That's right.
Derek becomes the
Yeah.
person that he is.
Yeah.
This scene was so poignant.
Wasn't it?
And I love that they kept it till
too.
basically towards the end.
Me too.
And then you see, oh.
Yep.
And it also, at that point, by the end, you're already seeing Derek's transformation.
Exactly.
And so
which
it
is
makes it
what we're
that
gonna
much
get into
more
next.
upsetting that, like you said at the beginning, hatred is taught.
Yep. And the damage that was done from that morning discussion, like setting Derek into a completely different vector, like, setting him off 4 degrees in this direction instead of this direction.
He was so bright.
He was
Talking,
he
they were
showed
joking
so
about
much
how,
promise.
you're going to get a B?
Right.
You're going to get
exactly.
a B?
Exactly.
Like, this guy's just straight A's,
Yep.
bright kid.
Yep.
He likes school. He
Yep.
likes being challenged.
All that.
And
All that. Yeah, you could see like bright and sunshiny. It's great how they put more hair on. Well, more hair than a skinhead, but
yeah.
but they, Edward
The
Norton did a good
downfall.
job of being like a high school senior, But yeah, Dad set him on a totally different path,
Boy, did he ever.
and it was painful to watch. But what a brilliant scene that was,
Absolutely.
because you had to see that everyone else there, particularly the mom, was quietly complicit.
And a lot of people are.
That's right.
We've
That's
seen
right.
the movies. We've seen, we know from our own personal experiences and lives, a lot of people are quiet when something like that
That's
happens.
right.
What are you going to say?
That's right. That's
if
right.
you fight back, and then we saw in the earlier scene what happened.
Right. And quite
That
frankly,
history teacher was out of there quicker than lightning,
yeah.
man.
And who could blame him?
Sure.
And the mom, there's every opportunity or every possibility that because her husband was murdered, she might see him through rose-colored glasses and doesn't want to see that he thought the way he thought, because he was a good dad and a good provider and he loved his kids and he might have been a decent husband. So, okay, you take the good with the bad. Maybe, he uses a word he shouldn't use now and again, but he's not really that bad of a guy. Look how much he loves his kids.
Sure, you write it off.
Write it off and you
then you don't
normalize
speak
it.
up and you don't say anything.
Right.
And then the kids, it becomes an impression on
Exactly.
who they are.
Exactly. So I want to talk about the unraveling of said hatred, because to me, this is really, really a very important part of this movie. To me. And that is once Edward Norton's character, Derek, is in prison. So the scenes in prison, so scene 3 I want to talk about is a few scenes
Yeah, that's fair.
that happened. So Derek is in prison, and they show scenes of him with Lamont, played by Guy Torry. But especially I want to talk about the scene where Derek asks Lamont why he's in prison. And Lamont says, "Oh man, they're folding sheets. That's their duty to fold the laundry. It looked like towels and sheets. That's pretty much what they do all day together."
Yeah.
And so Lamont had already said that he didn't want to talk about it. So they're getting to be friendlier. And I would just love to talk about those scenes exclusively. It's
also
because they
worth
were so
noting that
fantastic.
Lamont is an African American man.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry. Yes, Lamont is an African American man.
And Derek is a skinhead neo-Nazi.
Correct. And okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll stick to the plan here. So Lamont doesn't want to tell Derek why he's in prison, and Derek's like, "Come on, man." So Lamont tells him, and Derek learns that Lamont got 6 years for something that was not assault. He
Dropped a TV
stole a
on the
TV
foot
and he
of-
dropped, and a cop grabbed his arm. The TV comes loose. It broke the cop's foot. and he got charged with assault. He got 6 years. And Derek had a really hard time wrapping his head around this. He also killed 2 guys.
Yeah.
And he got 3 years. And that's when you could see a light bulb went off in our aspiring Nazi's head. Maybe, just maybe, there is prejudice in the judicial system. Maybe Murray, during Mom's last date with him, was right about something. Not only that, Derek's getting to like and respect Lamont.
Yeah.
And now it's getting personal because this black man is getting to be his friend. It's a personal relationship.
Yeah.
He's not an abstraction. He's not a group to hate.
Right.
He's a real guy in
He's a
front of
person.
him who is actually very likable.
Yeah.
And you can see
They build a rapport. They have
Yeah.
like a friendship.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he's not a race or a skin color. He's a person. And their dynamic, their friendship, if you will actually save Derek's life. And he does know it when it does happen. And when things get bad at the prison, who comes to help Derek? Dr. Sweeney, the principal from Venice Beach High, the one who taught him history and who will be teaching American History X to Danny. Because this is slightly out of sequence. But these scenes in prison are really important. I read, something I saw on IMDb, which I thought was really interesting, is, we see the meta score of what critics have to say about it.
Yeah.
And it was like low 60s. And then you look at viewers, it was 8.5, I
Wow.
believe.
Okay.
And so I was looking at these different critics and what they're saying. And it was so funny because the people saying, who gave it an 85 are the same people who are giving it a 50. They're saying this was so realistic. Down here, this was not realistic at all.
Oh, interesting.
And so I thought that was fascinating. One of them who said this wasn't realistic said, why would Lamont have a friendship with this guy? Like, why does he make such an effort to talk to him, to get him to calm down, to have rapport with him? And I thought that's because he was the smartest guy in the movie.
Yeah, he's a decent guy.
He's a decent guy.
human.
But
That's why he would make. Yeah, that's why he would want to be friends with. He's a person. He's a decent dude.
Totally true. Totally true.
He's in the can for stealing like a small TV.
Yeah. So I have some thoughts on this.
Okay.
So near the beginning of the movie, Seth, played almost too well by Ethan Suplee, says something important. He says, quote, if we don't know him, we don't want to know him. They're the effing enemy. If we don't know him, we don't want to know him.
Yeah.
They're the enemy.
Yeah.
Derek was getting to know the quote unquote enemy. Yeah. And it was completely dismantling his worldview.
Correct.
This runs the risk of sounding overly simplistic, but people usually hate or are scared of what they don't know.
Absolutely.
Totally. So, meet someone new, stretch yourself. You might make a really good friend. And
exactly.
In this case, here's I want to
that saves your life.
Exactly. Because to me, Lamont making friends with a guy who has, white power here, and he's got a massive swastika here, and everyone has seen it, and he's making friends with him. That is smart. And Derek has a rough time in prison, and he alienates everybody, and he gets sexually assaulted. He gets taught a lesson by the white group, and he does not go back to them. And he tells Lamont, I'm going to go solo. And Lamont's like, you're not going to make it.
He won't survive.
And so every day, Derek expects the black guys to take him out. And every day, nobody touches him. So when it comes time to leave the prison, Derek says to Lamont, I know it's because of you.
Yeah.
And Lamont didn't say anything. And Derek's like, I knew it. And do you remember the last thing he said? Because Derek tells Lamont to take care. And he says, you watch out for the brothers. The brothers.
Yeah.
And I thought that is the smartest guy in the movie, because he thought, here's this Nazi skinhead dude brimming with hatred. I'm going to get to be friends with him. Mm-hmm. And if I am friends with him and he gets to like me, respect me, and see that I'm human, what's he going to do when he gets out?
Yeah, he made all the difference in the world.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, it's powerful. Moving.
I thought so too.
Shout out to Lamont.
I completely agree.
I loved that scene, man, at the end when he's like, "You're getting out?" And he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And then he says, "I think the only reason I survived in here is because of you."
Yep.
And then Lamont just goes quiet.
Yep. Because it was true.
Yeah.
I just,
I loved their dynamic. I loved their relationship. I loved
Me
that
too.
he's the catalyst for Derek starting to change and become someone different.
Yep.
And then with the help of the principal, that
Yep.
kind of tips him over the edge because it becomes about bigger than himself. It becomes about Danny.
Yeah, it does.
He comes to him in prison and says, "Hey,
Yep.
Danny's shaping up to be just like you."
Yep.
And then I think Derek realized the importance of his role.
That's right.
And combining that with what he's learned from Lamont,
That's
it was
right.
the perfect recipe for him to get out and change as a person.
Yes.
And in turn have discussions that would
That would change Danny. And he was going down that road.
Absolutely.
They were
he
both
was.
going down that road, and it
Yeah.
was working.
Yeah.
It was working.
Heck of a movie.
High impact film. Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, exactly. Whew.
A difficult watch, but a necessary watch.
Completely agree. We both recommend this movie.
Highly.
Yeah, very highly. Fantastic performances. Edward Norton was nominated for Best Actor Academy Award. He did lose out to Roberto Benigni that year, but fantastic performance.
Lights out.
yeah.
Unrecognizable.
Yeah, unrecognizable. Fantastic movie and performances all around.
Agreed.
So I'd love to give a top 5 recommendation.
This will be an interesting list.
If you like that movie. So the first one is The Believer, starring Ryan Gosling. It's a true story of an American Jewish man who becomes a neo-Nazi.
The Believer, huh?
Yep. You can
Okay.
see it on Peacock or Amazon Prime.
Check that out.
Number 2, Menace to Society, starring Tyrone Turner, about a young black man who tries to escape the difficulties and temptations of life in the ghetto.
What a movie.
Yeah, for sure. Playing on Paramount Plus or Amazon Prime. This is England, starring Thomas Turgoose. This is the UK equivalent of American History X. This follows a group of skinheads in Margaret Thatcher's 1983 England. And you can see that on AMC Plus or Amazon. Skin, starring of all people, Jamie Bell. It follows a notorious white supremacist played by Bell as he embarks on a transformative journey with the assistance of a black activist and the woman he loves.
These are some great recommendations.
Thanks, man. You can find that on Amazon Prime. And last, I'm just throwing it in there because it's an Edward Norton thing. You got to see Fight Club.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. If you like this movie,
That's
yeah,
right.
It's a no-brainer.
Is this recommendation related to American History X? Absolutely not. No. But you should see it because you need to.
Oh yeah.
And you can do so on Amazon Prime.
Love it.
So just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.